Hey, what's up? This your boy Big Man. You know what it is, man. So we're going to continue where we left off with this Ruff Ryders Chronicles series, man. And we're going to talk about everything. You know, it's a lot going on in this episode 4. It's wild, man. It's a lot of stories. They talk about the tour. But before we get into all that, do me a favor. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and let's get it. Now, when we left off, man, DMX was mad about him not having part ownership in Ruff Ryders, and it never got really solved. So they kicked this one off, and they talking about the Locks. So the Locks are in a weird situation. They being managed by Ruff Ryders, but you know they really want to be over there because they see all the action that's going on. But they are still signed to Bad Boy, man. So Puffy, man, he's holding them hostage in that contract. Now you got to remember now when the Locks were on Bad Boy, their first album, Money, Power, and Respect, went platinum. Yeah, it was a platinum album. So Puffy like, and they hot right now, and they on a lot of this Ruff Ryders stuff. Nah, man. Nah, we keeping this at home, dog. And I kind of feel him, man. I kind of feel him. But DNY getting involved after Jadakiss and Sheik and excuse me, and my man, what's my man? Dog, Jadakiss, Sheik, Luch, and Styles P. God dang, man. I'm tripping over here, dog. Forgetting my cats. But dog, Styles P, Jadakiss, and Sheik Luch, the Locks, they just go up there to have a meeting, and they say this, man. They go to the meeting, they want to talk to Puffy to see if they could just talk their way out the deal, come up with some type of arrangement or something. And Puffy was not hearing that, man. He was like, nah, man. So this is their words. They said, Puffy said some stuff to Styles, and Styles P, you know Styles P always been a hi-hat, bruh. So Styles P just said, forget that, man, and threw a chair at Puff, man, because they was both going back and forth and talking tough, and he just said, forget that. He said he threw the chair so hard that he almost broke his own ankle, man, and I guess they got rushed up out of that place, because, you know, Puffy always had big-time security, man. He's always been a big money cat, so, you know, that didn't resolve anything, man. So it took DNY, cooler heads, older cats, you know, the Locks, they biggest issue was the shiny suits. They got tired of that. They know they from Yonkers. They some street dudes, man. They want to be street dudes. And street and gritty is getting hot right now. You know, everybody's changing over from the shiny suits and stuff. So they want to be on that wave because that's who they truly are. So you would hate to be playing a role that you're not, and then that wave that really is you blows up and goes away. Because like hip hop, it goes in waves, man. It's hardcore for a couple of years, and then it goes down to, I don't know, snap and poppy rap. And then just, you know, the only thing that don't waver in the last decade is Drake. And that's it. Everything else goes in and out. But he rides those waves too. Whatever that sound is, he sticks with it, you know, whatever's popping. And he's a genius at that. But man, back to Ruff Ryders, man. Now, Ruff Ryders, DNY, they holler at Puffy, and they come to a conclusion. He's like, yo, man, do us a favor, release the Locks. We want to sign them to our record label over at Interscope. And Puffy lets them go for $3 million, man. So they was dealing with chips, man. They was dealing with big boy chips. They ain't let them go for points on the album. Now, this is what most people don't know. And I know this from doing research about this before and talking to people. There was also a clause where they couldn't diss Puff. Because anybody who remembers that We Are the Streets album, they said Puff's name a couple times, and they had to bleep it out. It's like bleeped out in the album. They did that on purpose because it was clauses that they had to sign where they could not diss Puff or say nothing about Bad Boy or nothing like that, which was crazy, man, which was kind of smart on Puffy's end because he's thinking, nah, y'all ain't going to run over there and then just talk bad about us over here because we had this little skirmish, you know what I'm saying? What we going to do is you guys ain't going to say nothing about me, but you guys can go as long as I get my money, you know what I'm saying? And I'm winning on both sides, man. You still getting his bread buttered on both sides. Because for a while, he still had the rights to a lot of their music, man. So it was an interesting situation, but he let them go. And then they dropped their album, We Are the Streets, which is probably one of my favorite group albums from anybody out of the East Coast during that time period. It was hardcore, man. It was lyrics. Jadakiss was just on that level, man. Styles P too. It's just they're so good at the back and forth, man, with Jadakiss and Styles P and Sheik, man. It's crazy, man. It just that chemistry that they have. They were meant to be a group, man. It's just dope lyrics all around, man. And anybody will say that. So they finally on Ruff Ryder. They drop We Are the Streets. It goes gold. Everything's looking good. Now, DNY, they couldn't be doing any better, man. I'm talking about they were at the top of the game. This is like early 2000s. This is in the 2000s finally. And man, they got DMX, they got the Locks, they got Eve ready to go at it. She about to do another album, man. It's looking real good, man. You know what I'm saying? And they said, forget it, man. Who else is getting it like us? Who else out here really getting it? And Cash Money. Everybody knows Cash Money was blazing. They just wiped No Limit off the map. Like, and they was dropping albums that was really doing big numbers too. Juvenile doing like 4 million, Lil Wayne killing it, BG. You know, they just had in the Hot Boys. So it was like, nah, this makes sense. Because they just did the Hard Knock Life tour with DMX by itself. They're like, forget that. We doing a whole camp. And it's going to be our tour. And then they got a sponsor from Seagram's Gym. Now that's some very, I hate to say it, man. When he said that, man, that the Seagram's Gym was a sponsor, or Seagram's was a sponsor, I was like, man, now that's some black stuff right there. Dog. I ain't even gonna lie. Who the sponsor? Seagram's? You know, I had to crack up, man. It was funny to me, man. But anyways, man, so they start taking off on the tour. And this tour, man, come on, let's be real, man. This thing was set to fail before it even started. But in all actuality, if it's a successful tour, it's going to be the highest grossing tour in hip hop ever. So that's a real big milestone they're trying to set, which is crazy. So there's a lot at stake, man. And you got two camps that are known for street music, that are real street, real hardcore. And Cash Money, they have a wild side about them. They got some young cats. And then you got the Ruff Ryders, who got some wild cats of their own, you know what I'm saying? So it's an interesting mix, and they take to the streets and make sure they do this tour, you know what I mean? Now, what's wild is, man, both of these camps travel with like hundreds of people, man. Besides the artists, they just overloaded with buses on buses on buses. It's just so many people that they're taking to hotels and doing a lot, man. And once I heard that, I'm like, that's just too many people to be accountable for, man. I know everybody want to take their homeboy from the hood on tour with them, but come on, man. You know that could be a recipe for disaster because that's just too many people to account for. You got hotels, you buying out the whole hotel just for your folks. You know what I'm saying? But they strike gold, man, because every city sells out. The entire tour sells out, man. You couldn't have planned it any better, man. And Ruff Ryders, you can see that they're smart at that marketing and you know, and really getting their emblem and their image out there, man. They know how to brand themselves well. And this is displayed because they got their street team in every major city, you know, doing stunts on the bike, like 3,000 bikes in some cities out there doing stunts on the bike with the Ruff Ryders and stuff on there. So people see this, they feel that movement. It creates a different aura. For when you leave that city, people like, man, they really came through here. You know what I'm saying? Ruff Ryders is really serious. That's really something. Now, in the setup, they say this is Eve's first tour. So, you know, this is her first experience out there. And this ain't the tour to be your first tour, it seemed like, man. Because the stories from this tour, I said in the last video, I still have heard stories. I heard stories about this years later about this tour, man. And judging from what they said in the documentary, it was all true, man. So basically, man, these cats were running wild. DMX and everybody, even though he was married at the time, you know, no shade, but even DMX, everybody, it was running wild, man. They was locking down them hotels, man, and just doing crazy stuff, man. Like I said, it's too many people to account for, and it's a lot of wild cats, so they just doing a lot of wild boy stuff, man. But they wilding out a little too much because certain chains of hotels are telling them they're not allowed to book their artists there anymore. They're not allowed to book up rooms because, you know, the hotels are run by big major companies and they're communicating with each other and letting them know like, hey, man, these guys are banned. So one of the, I guess he's the tour manager or whatever, said that like 3 of the chain hotels said that nobody from this tour, nobody from Ruff Ryders could be booked in their hotel at all, which is crazy, man. The whole chain of hotels across, so you just can't, they didn't name which chain it was, but that's just crazy to think about, man. So they had to always find hotels at the last minute after all that, after the word started spreading that, hey, man, they was wilding out and probably just messing up hotels or whatever, allegedly, you know. But it's crazy, man. Just makes for good entertainment, though. Good stories. I'm sure everybody from that tour left with an amazing story. But for every up, there's a down. because they wild out a little too much. And they only 7 cities in. I mean, I know it's the first week of the tour, so that's probably the craziest because most people don't get their sleep schedule and all that stuff right. People just happy to be on the road, going city to city. But they're only 7 cities in, and they lose a sponsor, man. I was like, Seagram's was like, nah, man, this ain't fitting right with our image. So y'all know what that is. I'm guessing that the hotel chains or whoever were talking to the sponsor of the tour and was like, yo, man, we had this and that happen at our hotel. What's going on with this tour you're sponsoring? And then Seagram's was like, oh, okay. Nah, man, we can't be involved in none of this. You know what I'm saying? So this caused a ripple effect, man, because each artist, each act is a business. They're their own business. And, man, when they said, yo, the sponsor pulled out and Seagram's pulled out, that was like, they were the sponsor for the tour. That's millions of dollars. So the financial managers is like, yo, man, who's going to be cutting the checks and when are we going to be getting paid for each show, each city? You know what I'm saying? We need that paper. Even though DNY at this time, they got it. It's like, man, that is a heavy toll to pay, man, for this tour because this tour is a humongous operation. Not to mention all the people in their entourages, all the artists, they really trying to make this thing happen. But now they've hit a financial roadblock. But it got bad, like real bad, because even the folks who set up the lighting, all that stuff, the guys who drive the equipment trucks, like they had like 9 equipment trucks, them dudes wasn't getting paid either. And, they need money for fuel. They need money for everything. So, man, they probably would reconsider all that wilding out they did early in the tour just to get their sponsor back, man. You know what I mean? But, it had already happened. So DMX hears about the cats who are, like the truck drivers and those cats and the roadies and all those folks are not getting paid. And he says, nah, forget this. He gets with the artists from Ruff Ryder and he meets with everybody from Ruff Ryder, Dragon, Eve, the Locks, and says, forget it, man. We ain't going out there, man, until they come up with something to make sure everybody gets paid, which was kind of man, it seemed like if you were a fan at that time, you would think it was a jerk move, right? You'd be like, just perform. But nah, man, he's really doing a good thing because he's making sure that everybody gets paid. You see what I'm saying? But luckily, man, they got paper. So there was a short boycott at last. They said like an hour. And then finally they came to a resolution. And the resolution was DNY was just going to pay for the rest of the tour and everything out their pocket, which is a big ouch, man, because later on we're going to talk in the next video about why that might have been a bad idea. But we'll get to that, man. So they pay for the tour. But, man, they have a show in Boston. And none other than Benzino, man. Benzino, man, the rapper. He's from Boston, man. The guy from Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. Man, Benzino gets into it over some girl that allegedly went to DMX's room. And, man, the Ruff Ryders get to fighting and somebody gets stabbed. Craziness, man. But it seems like they made it through the rest of the tour without any other incidents but that. And they get down to, they only got 2 shows left. I think they said they had like 35 tour dates, 35 different cities or whatnot. And Eve is really going through it, man. It's just having an effect on her, man. This whole tour thing, the schedule, the being away from family, all the partying and stuff and the regulating sleep and just always doing interviews. There's nights she don't even sleep. She jumps up. She has to do an interview, say like with MTV or something in the morning. And it's just wearing on her, man. It's wearing on her bad because, man, tour, you ever see an artist before they go on tour and after they come off a long tour, any group, any artist, they're always skinnier, man. It's just one of them things. It's work, man. It's work. Now, it's a lot of profit in it, especially if you're selling out every venue. But, man, it's work. It's a lot of work. So she left the tour early before the last 2 tour dates. And DNY were very understanding. They were very understanding, which was dope, man. I was like, man, these dudes are stand up. That was for real. Now, X is blowing up, man. X is blowing up as a movie star. He's getting into movies after the success that he had in Belly. Like a lot of people, like, I don't know if Belly was a box office success. It's more of a cult classic. Like everybody loves that movie and quotes that movie. I love the movie too, don't get me wrong. But DMX came out as a natural actor in the movie. And I'll say I agree with that, man. He's just built for acting, man. So he's in a lot of movies. Exit Wounds, movies upon movies upon movies. But it makes a problem where he starts building his team that travels around with him when he does movie stuff. And people aren't watching him to make sure he's not slipping into those bad habits again. And he slips in them bad habits and trips and falls in them. Now, DMX is starting to isolate himself from the Ruff Ryder camp, and he builds up his own record label called Bloodline Records. And man, everybody's looking crazy at the time, like, man, why is he trying to do his own thing? But they understand because he still want that percentage, man. You know, he was never happy about not getting a part of Ruff Ryders. But at the same time, he comes in and he says, forget this, man. We got to make things right, man. So him, D and Y, they get together and they go ahead and move him out to Arizona, where he works on the Great Depression album. Now, in the Great Depression album, it's another #1, man. So DMX hits another #1 out the box, and then here comes Eve with Scorpion, and she kills it with a #1, and she has a #1 single and gets a Grammy for Let Me Blow Your Mind with Gwen Stefani, man. And that was a moment in hip-hop history right there. Eve just took off to a whole nother stratosphere when she got that Grammy, man. It's like, yeah, that's definitely household name time, you know what I'm saying? And Jadakiss also drops Kiss the Game Goodbye, man, which is another hit album. They couldn't get no higher, man. They were just rolling with success, man. And then D, you know, one of the CEOs, man, he gets into a bad accident on one of their motorcycles, man, which sucks, man. It's horrible to hear because the way they describe it sounds horrific. I guess the gas pedal got stuck to where he couldn't slow it down no matter if he tried, no matter what, and he couldn't jump off of it. So it's crazy, man. I was like, dang, man, that's crazy, man. And that's kind of where they ended, man. D's in the hospital, and you know, D is like the backbone of the whole label. So you know this is going to shake up the whole situation over at Ruff Ryders. Now with that, this has been your boy Big Man. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. And oh yeah, don't forget, we're going to be doing part 5, the final episode. We're doing another video on that too, man. That be coming soon. All right, peace.